everybody, or hello you. Thank you for tuning in to my Detailing Yoda channel, which is here to help you and your detailing business in any way I can, really. So in this video, what I'm hoping to do is run through a really common question, which I don't think there's many people out there, or I don't think there's much information out there on really, which is pricing of services. So if you've been on one of my courses, what you'll know is, for me, one of the things I come back to that's really, really important the whole time is an hourly rate. Let me just check you're still recording a second. You are. Fantastic. An hourly rate. So, and that hourly rate will be different for everybody. And this sort of example I'm going to go through, you don't have to be in detailing actually, this can work for anyone. So a lot of the time people start with their prices, start with looking at everyone else's prices and then try and undercut a bit. That's probably a strategy that I can talk about in another video. I don't think it's a great strategy. Everybody's individual, so you've got to concentrate on that. So the number one job as a detailer, or learning to detail, everybody can polish cars, everyone can get clean cars. You guys that do it as a hobby are super lucky because time doesn't come into it. So if you want to do it for a business, time comes into it. Why, you say? Well, it's important, customers need to know rough order of magnitude, they need to know budgets, and you need to know roughly what you need to be earning to pay the bills and pay yourself and not let the landlord foreclose on you and stuff. So the number one thing that's important to do is know what you can do in a certain amount of time. Whether you're valeting and doing a mini valet or a full valet or whatever you call those, because have a look around, many people have different service levels for those things. So whatever you can do in a certain amount of time, in 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, an 8 hour day, just get to know what you can achieve on what size vehicle and how long it takes you. That's the crucial thing. Once you know how long a job takes you, then you can price it because you know your hourly rate. And it's very easy, one times the other. So how do you work out an hourly rate? So I'm going to do a rough, drop my pen lid. I'm going to do a rough example for you here. In the style of, as you've seen from my other videos on how to detail or the polishing cycle and stuff, I like to draw things and work an example out for you. Hopefully it keeps it a bit more interesting. So I'm gonna just go through a really rough example. It's roughly based on me in my workshop in my area of the country. It'll be completely different for everybody else. If you're a mobile guy, it'll be different because we won't have rent and rates, but you will have a van and van payments and insurance and diesel and all that stuff, and servicing and tyres and that kind of thing. So let's just crack on with it, shall we? Let's just do an example. So I'm going to keep it quite simple. The more detail you can put into this, the better. But at a very high level, what are my big costs every year? So, well, number one, of course, is rent. And my other sort of, what I would call, so there's two types of costs. There's a fixed cost and a variable cost. A fixed cost is completely independent of whether you get, it's independent of customers. So whether you get no customers or whether you get 1,000 customers, the costs don't change. So for me, broadly, those costs are rent, my council tax, rates, my insurance, and to a greater or lesser degree, my bills. So my electric, phone, internet, water, which for me is included in my rent actually, but there we go. So, and very roughly, those things altogether are about 2k a month, or 24k a year. So, so if we divide that down, just those costs, so the next calculation that's quite cool to do is if you assume a 40-hour working week, which is a good place to start. Don't plan to be working Saturdays and evenings and everything else, which you inevitably will now and again when it goes wrong. But, let's start with a 40-hour week. So 40-hour week times 50 weeks a year, because you've got to take some holiday, gives you 2,000 hours, roughly, a year. So divide one by the other one. That immediately gives you a fixed cost. So just to open the doors, and 8-hour working days, that means you've got to get in £12 an hour. And that's before you've paid your mortgage at home, paid yourself, driven your car, put petrol in it, all of those sorts of things, bought any detailing products, anything like that, invested in the business, written a website, all of those sorts of things. So, let's talk about some of those costs. Minimum wage these days is knocking on £10 an hour, isn't it? If you're, semi-skilled work, how do you value yourself? This comes in at, but, any reasonable job pays £15 an hour, doesn't it? So labour, any reasonable job pays £15 an hour. Really skilled workers can earn anything, photographers, anything like that, can earn up to 30, 40, £50 an hour. So this is a big variable, but let's not go crazy. Let's say £15 an hour. So we've got £15 an hour over there. However, depending on how your business is structured, speak to your accountant. So I'm a limited company, so I'm employed by my company. So, you have to pay a bit of pension, a bit of national insurance, a bit of tax, all those sorts of things. So there is, if you're paying that on paper, there's actually kind of plus 25% on top of that for all of those other bits and pieces as well. So we need to add a plus 25% on there, which is another £3.50 an hour. You might be able to see where I'm going with this. So that, at a very, very basic level, that's just to open the door and just to pay yourself, an average wage, not a crazy wage, is really, cracking on for £30 an hour. Now, if you actually want to invest in your business, have a website, that assumes you work 2,000 hours a year. So when you're answering an email, whether you're, that means actually productive work probably has to be a little bit more than that, because there are non-earning or non-productive hours, aren't there, when you're answering emails, when you're posting your work on social media, when you're making YouTube videos, when all of that sort of stuff. So, and you need to invest in yourself, you need to go on training courses, you need to get accreditations, all of those sorts of things. And then, the other big thing, this is really fixed cost, variable cost is the next big category, isn't it? So obviously if I do one car, I've got the chemicals attributed to that car, we've sort of accounted for the water and that kind of thing, but the big ones are chemicals. If we're doing coatings, the coatings attached to that car, and those will be individual and much more individual. What I'm trying to do here is a very rough stroke, very, very rough sort of put together thing for you. So, we're at £30 an hour, but that's non-productive really. So you can see quite easily how actually, and I tend to personally think I need to be earning about £50 an hour in order to have everything paid and to make sure that I've still got a business in a year or two's time. So that's how that's built up. So what that means is if I'm offering, let's say, a full valet, which might take, depends on the car, doesn't it? Depends on what my full valet is compared to your full valet. But let's say that was 2.5 hours work. Really, that needs to be, shockingly, somewhere between at 60 what, 75 quid, I'm basically breaking even, and about 100 quid is probably where it needs to be for a, whatever, protection detail, you know, a half day, 4-hour service. So kind of like the full valet, but maybe you're putting a nicer wax on, dressing tyres, doing a few more nicer things in that, some premium products, dressing tyres, protecting wheels. Let's say that was 4 hours. Then all of a sudden, you know, we're up to 130, probably up to probably 150 to 175, aren't we? And then let's say the 8-hour detail, call that whatever you want. Personally, I call that an enhancement detail because it's geared around a day's service, always was. Historically, that was always what I used to do. So 8 hours is, you know, a minimum really. I'm breaking even at sort of 240, but actually to be making money, that probably needs to be 350, 400, doesn't it? So, because if you think about it, that customer that's booked in for that's probably asked some questions, sent some emails, you've had some phone calls, you've had to get the car in. There's probably a hidden hour or two just dealing with that customer. So those are very rough, and for me, you know, a van probably isn't going to cost you that much, but actually my building only accounts for, you know, getting on for a third of those costs. So, you know, everybody asks, that's roughly, that is how I would say you should price your services. The problem with looking at someone else is you might have a very different cost base. So if you look at Dave down the road who's got a detailing or is, you know, doing some valeting, he might get free rent. He might, there's so many variables. He might have won the lottery and not need £15 an hour. You know, so many variables. So you've got to look at it on your own and concentrate on what it means to you. And then of course the target is being able to do that service in that time. And if you're just starting out, what you'll notice is the amount that you can do in a set amount of time gets better and better. It's the 1,000-hour theory, which maybe I'll do another video on because I'm a huge fan of the 1,000 hours. But the longer you do stuff, I've been doing this 11 years now, I can do quite a lot in that 8-hour detail, which for some of you guys might be like, wow, really? That sounds like no time at all to be detailing a car. Well, you can do quite a lot, but to have a big setup, and I haven't got the craziest setup by any means. And the other thing that I would just sort of get you to do is look at sort of equivalent services. So I work on a lot of Porsches. What is the hourly rate at a Porsche dealer? We had a training the other day. We actually went to the Porsche dealership and had a look at that have a look at that customer experience. What do you get when you take your Porsche to a Porsche dealership? You get a nice cup of coffee, a really nice environment to sit down in. But their hourly rate is probably knocking on £200 an hour. And honestly, guys, detailing is a skilled, it's a skilled trade, isn't it? You know, mechanics or, you know, anyone twirling a spanner is also a skilled trade. So if a customer is prepared to pay £200 an hour to have their Porsche mechanically worked on, why would they not pay an hourly rate of that order of magnitude to have their car polished, which is arguably an even more skilled thing? So, really quick thing, this will help you, whatever you do. If you are a hairdresser or if you, I don't know, anything, whatever you would do, this hopefully might help you. Really rough, just worked example with some rough, realistic figures on. Hopefully this helps you. If it does, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you want to see some more sort of videos on. I've hinted at a few other things in this video. Best thing to do now is go and have a look, maybe have a look around the channel, look at some other videos. Did you see all the stuff we did on the polishing cycle? Maybe I'll try and do some more basic stuff as well, so some more basics for you sort of guys that are newer to the trade. But hope you enjoyed this video. Check out the rest of the channels on the video and do click down in the corner on the subscribe link if you're not subscribed already. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much.